2022 marks my 20th year of making French beaded flowers. My first flowers, like yours, were full of mistakes. In this video, I'm going to undo the first beaded flower I made and let you see my beginner mistakes and what you can do to make better flowers from square one. If you are a beginner and would like to get started with French beaded flowers, my first book, Bead Flora, The Revival of French Beaded Flowers, is a great place to start. I also have video tutorials on my channel that will get you started. My first flowers were roses from Daylene Kelly's book, French Beaded Flowers, New Millennium Collection. If you like her two books, they're sometimes still available on Amazon, and you can still find used copies for sale on eBay. These were my first flowers. The stems are lumpy. The rows on the petals are out of shape from being knocked over. Let's rip off the floral tape here. Look at these lumpy leaves. Look at how I assemble these. I wrap the wires around the stem, and that is actually a common beginner mistake. You get so excited about it looking like a real flower as you're playing around that you forget to look at the instructions. The floral tape from 20 years ago was really well made. It is still clinging onto the wire, and I've been having a hard time getting it off. The floral tape made today are hit and miss. Now let's unwind the wires here. It looks like I just wrapped two 18 gauge stem wires together with wire. I suggest using at least 16 gauge wire. I'm just tidying up some of the bottom wires so they're not so crinkly. Look at this petal. The top base of wire is crooked. The original pattern didn't call for lacing because the petals were on the smaller side, but I'm going to lace the larger petals because they got out of shape from being knocked over. So here we have all the petals, and I'm going to assemble it again. I laced all of the larger petals, and I laced the two largest leaves. One of the bottom wires for one of the leaves did break, so I'm going to attempt to fix this here. Okay, just have a piece of scrap wire here. Just gonna put it through here and twist. Now we'll be able to use this petal without having to remake it, hopefully. The original instructions called for 14 gauge or 16 gauge stem wire, and I used two 18 stem gauge wires instead. 14 gauge or 16 gauge wire would definitely work, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 12 gauge stem wire here. And I'm going to follow the original instructions as close as possible. Okay, so I'm going to lightly tape the wire here. And what this does, it helps the wires kind of stick to the stem. You need to really go down the whole length? Probably not, but we're just going to do it for funsies. Okay, and the instructions say to use thin assembly wire, and I have 32 gauge wire here. You can use 34, 32, or even 30. So the thinner the better, because then you would get less bulk as you're wrapping it. And a method that I have started using instead of using wire is using thread. But like I said, I'm going to follow the original instructions as best as possible. First, I'm going to start out with the smallest petals here. That's more than 2 passes. The original instruction says 2 to 3 passes. Okay, but it's the first one, so I wanted it to be secure. Let's do a few more for the first one. Okay, now we're ready for the next set. Next set of petals. Okay, don't pull too hard. All right, moving on. The second last layer. All right, final layer. Now I have all of the petals attached, and Deline actually has you attaching the sepals also, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this with floral tape first and then add the sepals, and I'll tell you why I do that. Okay, so let's cut off the assembly wire. And the original directions, which I did not follow, is to taper the stem. Just cut all these wires so that it's not incredibly bulky. So I'm going to follow the directions now as best as I can. The heck. So what I do in my patterns with a lot of petals is I reduce the wires to one bottom wire instead of having two bottom wires and then taper. So that is a different method that you can use. Now I'm going to wrap the stem with photo tape. Now onto the sepals, and the reason why I like to add the sepals on after I tape the stem is because you can see the assembly wire right here. You can still see it even though you wrapped it with Flora tape. I don't want to see so much assembly wire, and that's why I do this extra step. Okay, so let's add the sepals on, cover as much as I can the parts that I don't want to see. So you want to cover like the back wires here, or whatever part you don't want to see. Now let's cut the assembly wire. And then wrap with tape. And I'm not going to go all the way down because I'll still be adding the leaves. So what's the point, right? Now we are ready to assemble the leaves. The bottom wire for this leaf is a little bit short. I think I cut it for some reason. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before and attach another set of bottom wires on here. It got on a bead. Okay, now it's good. The original instructions has you taping the leaves together like this and then attaching it onto the stem. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these onto a length of 18 gauge stem wire, and these are the original 18 gauge stem wires that I used for the main stem before. And the reason why I like to do that is that when I attach the leaves, I don't want to have like a random lump here and then it goes down and then you have another random lump. So I just want like everything to be nice and smooth and flush, right? Okay, so I'm going to take the smaller length here and then do this first group of leaves. Do I need to take the leaves? Not necessarily, I think. But anyways, let's just go with it. All right. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, it would be a good idea to tape this here a little bit so it attaches on. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I don't think it's necessary. Just the top is fine. So that there's like for the wire to grip on, there's something to grip onto. All right, now we are ready to attach the leaves on. So let's attach the longer length first. I'm just gonna line it up so that it's flush, so I don't have to cut it later. It just turns out that it's the right length or needs where it needs to be. So that's cool. All right. Okay, so I think I want this other stem here. Well, actually, let's line it up, right? So yeah, right here. That's good. It's good. And I don't have to do any cutting because I left my heavy-duty cutter upstairs. This is where the studio is where I do my filming. Like actually, when I do my actual beading and stuff, it's upstairs. All right, much better, right? Okay, so let's shape this. If you are just starting out, you may think that your beading sucks. You can't compare your first day with my 20th year. You are doing awesome. This little exercise shows us that 1, we all start from somewhere. My first flowers were full of mistakes, just like you. And 2, even if your beading is not perfect with lacing and proper assembly, no one can tell. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Happy beading!